elected. After the primaries, it started increasing, reached approximately 40%, with Palin being selected as a vice presidential nominee, just edged above 50%, but then again, after it started dropping. So essentially, we have people that buy and sell the stock of Obama will be elected or McCain will be elected. If you bought a stock for an event that will happen, at the expiration you get paid 100, otherwise you lose all your money. And people have been studying these markets and they said, well, they're very good predictors of what will happen in reality. They're actually better than polls in predicting what will be the outcome of the election. And we have been studying these markets. And here is a case where we're studying the contract for Hillary Clinton being selected as the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. And here is the price of her contract, 2005, 2006, and so on. And at some point, December 2007, it was going really high. So she was becoming the clear favorite. But at the same time, we were examining also the news and trying to associate news with this political sentiment. And here is the sentiment indicator that we extracted from the news. And December 2nd, 2007, we realized that the sentiment for Clinton was actually turning very negative. Despite the fact that people believe that she's going to be elected, we have seen that our sentiment indicator was indicating that her price, the probability of being elected, will start going down. And I'm writing in my blog there, just to put our money where our mouth is, the signal from the past few days shows that Hillary's market price will edge lower in the next few days, weeks. And actually it was even picked up by the New York Times, and it was played, some people say that Clinton is not going to be elected. And here is how it continued. So indeed, we have seen that the contract started falling the next few days, and after some point, the contract ended up at zero. However, you will see that our sentiment indicator, we actually stopped tracking it here at the very negative part for here. And so, why did we stop there? Well, we started having an interesting exchange of emails. So, Monday, January 14th, 2008, extensive download from licensed database. We have received a complaint from XXXXX about a massive number of articles, over 10,000 per session, being downloaded from a database to a system at Stern using this IP, blah, blah. So, well, I get a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning, what the heck are you doing with blah database? We got a bill for $250,000, you are going to pay for this. So, and essentially we had this whole brouhaha. We reached and we talked with a representative of this database that we get, and they say it is clear that the interface is meant only for humans, not to download articles for processing with computers. So this is what they said. Well, we give you access to the database of news, but you know what? It is only for humans. It's not for you to put your programs to download massively. I say, sure, it is only for humans. So you go there, you press XML, and you get that. And this is for human processing, according to the representatives of the database. Well, let me have my doubts. But end result, the research project was essentially shut down, since we cannot get any more news to process, so we were not able to carry on the project about associating political markets and political news. And actually this brings me to some conclusions, so we realized that if someone is going to create, have a research program that might end up creating a product that is competitive with the offerings of this database. So in that particular case, we realized that the database provider was also offering a tool for analyzing the sentiment in the news and so on. So whatever we're doing could lead to potentially open source, open competitor for them. So they didn't want to provide their own data for us to build such a model. Interestingly enough, though, many people start using textual data for their own research. I have been approached many times over the last year, last time a week back, people in disciplines that traditionally never dealt with such data, for example, marketing, finance, and so on, increasingly they want to analyze text, and they want to analyze very big repositories of text. So, and the whole idea of each one trying to build his own data set from scratch, trying to capture all the news that have been published in the past and so on, it's not the most productive use of the researcher's time. It is time to have a public, comprehensive repository of archival news so that people can get them and analyze them using text mining and automatic techniques. So that the era of hiring a work study to go over 100 articles and download them from the database is just over. So people want to have comprehensive data sets, very big data sets to analyze using machines. So potentially we might even want to have a repository of such news and allow other people to contribute annotations and tagging and so on, and potentially have some reputation system to say, well, the annotations that these people put on the on top of the archive is actually very useful. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to get there, of having someone curate such a repository of archival news and essentially enable research for many researchers that start to actually now look and try to actively analyze such data. So,
hey, I have a question.
Yep.
So, you know, like LexisNexis and these things that I don't know about Factiva. I believe that they sell a separate component, like for $70,000 or $30,000, that will allow someone to do this.
Yes, they were charging us. We gave a quote of $50,000 for a one-time dump that we could use ourselves and only ourselves, but it was not going to be anything. And also they were saying that it was $50,000 for something like for a limited, not for the full repository. We were going to specify what type of news we wanted, for example, about Apple, about Microsoft, and so on, and get the dump, pay $50,000, and that's it.
So how, and you were very easily able to come up with a method of mining this stuff yourself for a little bit of money?
Development, this is what we are doing actually. We develop such techniques. So this is our research about. So yes?
Mary Jean, a couple of years ago I went at Stern and some of your graduate students were telling us how to scrape. They gave a seminar on how
most probably our graduate, my graduate student that was most probably involved in this.
Yes.
Yeah, Factiva was, I have to say that we're trying to make it hard for us to get these things in an automatic manner. So they have all sorts of things to make it difficult.
But Factiva does have a component that they sell.
Yes, and they were charging $1 per article that you download if you use it like that.
But that's the world that we live in. I don't get it.
Well, it makes sense to charge $1 per article if this thing is going to be read by a human. These are the so-called display uses versus non-display uses. Same thing with the Google Books project. Google says, well, yes, we scan all the books, but what we're going to use them is not the equivalent of buying a $100 book. Mm-hmm. It is we use it for non-display uses. We mine the text and we extract a catalog and so on. So it is the use that we have of the news. When we get 1 million news articles, it is not the same thing as a human downloading 1 million articles and reading them or redistributing them and so on. So it's a big difference between humans reading this thing and computers processing it.
So who do you think is buying those $30,000?
Financial companies.
Okay.
So it's just.
It's a no-brainer.
No, increasingly I was getting phone calls in the past, so consulting about how we can mine financial news and so on. But, This is what we want to have, you know, financial companies paying and getting access to the news, and everyone else, you know, good luck with that,
Right,
you know.
right.
Just,
Yeah, no, I agree with that part. The other thing I was going to say is it actually doesn't cost Factiva any money.
for us, actually, I know, because they were sending this fake bill of $250,000 claiming royalties,
Yeah.
but they don't pay royalties for things that they give to academic institutions.
Yeah, 'cause we
Which
have-
is so,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, it's a big hypocrisy. I could understand if they had actual cost that they would have to pay royalties for everything that we download, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, and there was a question there. So.
Yeah, I have two questions.
Sure.
I'm sure these data sets are huge.
Mhm.
So where do you store it? And how do you store it?
1 terabyte disk today costs $100.
Okay.
And this is text. Text is extremely easy to store.
And are you using any specific program to extract the data or software?
We have written a small crawler that was essentially selecting the news, press the XML button, and save it. After that, I'm a computer scientist. I can do these things, so it's easy afterwards. So this thing is actually very nicely organized for computers to process, because they have all the text nicely organized. They have the bylines, they have the headlines. They even mention, I don't think that they have it here, which companies are mentioned in the text explicitly. So it is very nicely organized. It's very clear that it is
They do
for...
now right down the side.
Yeah, but it was coming from here, actually. This thing was there for ages. Now
Okay,
they...
but I mean, now they expose, I'm sure you've looked at Factiva, how they expose the companies down the side.
Yeah, but I say this thing was in this
Yeah.
XML thing for
I see
ages,
what you mean, yeah.
for many years.
I think it's confusing.
Huh.
Quite a few of us are from a data service studio on the 6th floor. We have a license for SPSS text analyst,
Yes, okay.
which takes, and it does synonyms, and it does conjugation of
Mhm.
verbs and things like this. English. Supposedly, it was foreign languages, but they still haven't broken that. Yeah.
So increasingly people want to use such tools. The problem at this point is not the existence of the tools. As you mentioned now, SPSS and other data mining companies, they start creating user-friendly, tools to analyze texts. The problem is that we don't have the text to analyze. So we have the tools, but any non-toy study that is trying to estimate the effect of text on something needs a very comprehensive news archive. And
But your universe is so big too. Blogs, you have everything in the...
for that, believe it or not, it's easier to get blogs and things like that, because we don't have to, and there are companies that provide access to blogs and so on. And they are happy to give access to other people to process their archives. But when we get to actual news, there is no, we have a oligopoly. Essentially, we have LexisNexis, you have Factiva. I don't know if and they have been merging extensively lately. So I think we have two providers of archival news at this point.
ProQuest also.
But ProQuest is sitting on top of Factiva, if I remember correctly. No?
No.
But wait, is it separate? Who owns ProQuest?
Probably Thompson.
CSA.
I don't know.
CSA.
CSA does? I don't know.
Okay, so maybe there is a third one. But we have a very small number of sources that provide access to data that many people will want to analyze. Many people want to analyze. So some people want to see the effect of news coverage on backdating, and essentially to see whether the media hold people accountable for, executives accountable for backdating of options and so on. Other people want to do other, they have millions of questions that they want to examine using news data, but they cannot because they cannot have access to news. Yes?
So basically you're saying you're pretty much shut down from doing what?
Oh, yeah.
And so what's the next step? Is there a community of people? Is it the business?
I had New York Times had a very nice step last year. They released in exactly this format all their archive for research purposes. They said, okay, you cannot monetize it, you cannot be a commercial service and use the New York Times archive, but for linguistic purposes, for any other research purposes, here it is, nicely tagged and so on. And New York Times is actually at the very forefront of facilitating researchers, because they realize that if people can find use for old news, well, they used to say that old news wraps today's feast, right? But today it is a different thing. So they realize that if they make it easy for people to get value out of old news, well, they can potentially monetize it in the future. But yes.
That reminds me, and it always really irritated me. Factiva used to have this great feature where you could say, look at a chart of the S&P 500 over a period of time and click on the peaks, the highs and the lows, and see, like, so-and-so died this day.
Okay, I haven't seen
and
that.
And they took it away.
Not surprised.
And it was so great because it was so easy to just see what was happening.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, when I worked for a law library, there was the craft dealer theory of vending their merchandise, that they would get the students addicted to it, so that they would choose one of the two vendors between Westlaw and Lexus, and they would get addicted to it where they got it for free at school, like the dealer who gives out drugs at school. And then when they go to the business world or work, they'll pay.
You know what? I can buy that, right? I mean,
No. So I don't understand Factiva's reluctance to give you this data, show that it, and prove that it's economically worth something, where they can then turn around and charge.
I try to talk to them. I talk to their public relations forefront that talks and so on. I mean, yes, we'll do something, and I mean, I gave up. I mean, for the last year,